is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Serious Angler podcast, powered by our friends over at X2 Power Batteries. Back again with the captain, Mr. Andy Full. As always, I'm your host, Bailey Egbrett. Andy, what's going on, man? Congrats on the night dub last night.
Thanks. Yeah, that was fun. I'm still more in shock about the record-breaking smallmouth bag as we're recording this from today and Brian Smith. And it was awesome because, he's an alpha angler rod guy. So it's like a little slap on the back. But I have a funny Brian's.
You're not trying to take any credit for that, are you?
No. Well, the first time
I met your own back for Brian's win.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I'm just being funny. But the first time I met Brian Smith was at the Classic at Hartwell.
Mm-hmm.
And I was walking over to talk to La Barbara, and he comes running from the Alpha Angler booth with the entire rack of rods. And he goes, "Don't tell Boomer." And he hit him in the buck and bass booth. And Boomer comes, he's like, "Where'd my rods go?" I was like, "I don't know." And you look over, and Brian's like popping over like the jacket rack, like smiling. And then Boomer turns around, he like pops down. I was like, "That guy's hilarious." Like,
he's one of the good ones.
He is one of the good ones. So very happy for him. It was awesome. So
hopefully we can close it out. 29.5, new Bassmaster Elite Series record for a smallmouth bag, a pure smallmouth, all five being smallmouth. 29.5 is a giant bag. Yeah. And he didn't even have big fish.
No. Who had big fish? Was it Mueller, right? Was it Mueller's?
I think it was Mueller with a 6'11".
No, it's
by the way, 6'11", I believe is somebody from our fantasy fishing show said 6'11".
Yeah, probably.
I want to say it's actually Boomer. I think Boomer might have said it was 6'11", but yeah, I was talking to him today, and Boomer was telling me some stories of Bryant that we'll have to get Bryant and Boomer on the same show and kind of
the Bryant roast.
Yeah, the Bryant roast.
I texted Boomer earlier, and I said, I'm telling Bryant that you abandoned him on the final event of the year after picking him like 7 of the 9.
So see, this is why fantasy fishing is all superstition, because when you first time you don't pick a guy is when they do really good, and then when you do pick them is when they do bad.
Yeah, especially in your case.
Oh, dude, it's horrible. It's horrible. So like Fouts has been on a tear. Not that he had a bad start to today, 21 pounds, but 21 pounds has got him in like 37th or something crazy. And of course, I pick him for this one after he has 2 top 10s. I'm sitting, I'm like, I feel bad. I feel like I should text Jacob and be like, "I'm sorry. This is my fault. I'll take this one." Like, I gotta stop picking friends in fantasy.
Yeah,
fishing.
but if he gets 21 pounds again tomorrow, that could not be enough. Like with the
21 might drop him tomorrow.
Yeah,
like, he could end up in the 40s.
You're gonna need like 22 to 23, I think, tomorrow to make the cut. It's going to go
30 tomorrow.
What?
I think we'll see a dirty 30 tomorrow.
I think Chris Johnson is going to drop 30 today as people are listening.
Dude, he left at like 1 o'clock and went and weighed in.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. He left his primary area and went into the river and then caught a 6-pounder and then weighed in.
Yeah.
Which is just like, what the heck?
Yeah. Well, regardless, a great event going on. Love to see New York on display. It will be interesting, though, because so many pros that are like, I didn't want to go on the lake and beat up my boat. All said, I'm going to lake tomorrow. It'll be interesting to see how crowded the lake is going to be tomorrow and if that affects any of the bags.
I don't know if it'll be that crowded though, because that lake fish is so big.
It does, but also, I mean, when they're only on certain things, it doesn't. Sure. So I don't know. I mean, we'll see. The
mouth of the river where Cifuentes and both Johnsons started in the morning might be a little bit more crowded, I bet.
Yeah, I'm sure because it's right there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Either way, day 2 is going on. If you're listening to this on a Friday, day 2 is going on, and it'll be interesting to see how things shake out. If they change, if people drop, people have good days. We'll see. Nonetheless, we have a great episode today. We got our buddy, Mr. Noah Schultz, coming back on. The proclaimed best out of Minnesota by several people. So we're going to be diving into the noggin of Mr. Noah Schultz here because I've gotten to obviously have Noah on the Schultz here. Noah on the Schultz. Noah on the show. I just kind of like that. Noah on the Schultz. Noah on the show here a couple times, but then also spend a couple days fishing with him as well. And my brain and his brain while his operates way better than mine, it's the same track in regards to how we approach lakes, and so that's why I'm very intrigued and always love getting them on here. So Andy, I think without further ado, let's get him on here. Mr. Noah Schultz, what's going on, man?
What's up?
Going on? Drop the water.
Yeah, I feel like you're always fishing.
Oh, me too. That's a good thing, though.
It is. It is.
Good thing.
It's
It's
why
been
I
like-
say that out of jealousy than anything else.
Yes.
I think I've been on the road for almost 2 weeks now, fishing every day. I'm tired. I'm exhausted, but I love it.
And that's just in Minnesota?
Yeah, going from Derby to Derby to Derby. We got practice right now through Sunday for the Classic Bass Champions Tour. The championship is coming up Wednesday, so we got to practice through Sunday, a few days off, and championship on Wednesday, and then we roll back home. We get back home the next day. I got to start practicing for another tournament. And I can't even keep track more. My wife has the whole book of everything, I schedule everything, and then I got to come back up here for a couple more up here, and then go back down home for some more back home. So we're all over the place, but it's fun. We enjoy it. We have a camper. We travel with the kids, and we travel all over Minnesota pretty much all summer long. That's what we do.
Yeah. I have to say it is impressive on how big the Minnesota bass fishing scene is.
Oh, it's massive. It's
Like,
especially like the last 5 years. It's just like
exploded.
It's gotten so big. But we have a lot of great fisheries too, though.
Yeah.
So
That
I think that's
helps.
probably why it's easy. It's easy for people to get into fishing in Minnesota because, I mean, it doesn't matter where you live in the state. Within 10 miles of your house, you probably have a good lake, and you can go catch bass. So it makes it easy for people to like it and get into.
How many of the lakes in Minnesota have you actually fished at this point?
No, probably a fraction of a percent. There's 10,000 lakes. There's literally like within 30 miles of my house. I could fish a different lake every day of the month probably and not hit the same lake twice.
Insane.
So it's
Andy, this is why I'm telling you on my bucket list is to literally, and Noah, I probably told you this when we were at in Iowa together. One of my top of my bucket list is to take a summer in Minnesota and fish a new lake or two every single day. Because some of the lakes there that you can probably get to in a kayak is probably ridiculous.
Oh yeah. We have like 30-acre lakes that don't get touched. Like
because you can't get a boat on them, basically, right?
Well, you can if you're motivated. You can.
Yeah, depends how motivated.
Yeah,
got it.
We have some real gems, and two, it's like we have so many lakes that a lot of them just don't get fished because there's more popular lakes that people prefer to go to, and so a lot of our fisheries are untouched, really.
Right. Is in your opinion, is Minnesota the best state in the north to try to make a living tournament fishing, not at a national scale, like whether it's a regional, local level?
I think yes, because of one reason and one reason only. That's because of the Champions Tour. Because you're fishing as an individual, and with all the contingencies they have set up for us, like you could walk away if you win an event by yourself. You could walk away out of that, making 16, 17 grand if you play your cards right and run the right, if you run the right stuff, even more, if you have certain boats, you can win, 25 grand coming out of it, one event. And then the championship, you're fishing for a 1-day shootout for a $60,000 skeeter, like by yourself out of 30 boats, so.
Yeah.
And then we have plenty of individual big events like the Blackfish Classic, for 15 grand, the Minnetonka Classic for 10 grand. We have the Team Trail, Minnesota Team Trail, where every event is 10 grand. Like we have a lot of $10,000 pot tournaments in the state. Like that's why I'm so busy. I just go from tournament to tournament to tournament. I chase the money, that's what I do all summer long.
Right. I mean, that's smart. That's how you should do it if you're going to try to make it at that.
Unless you're not catching checks, and it's not very smart. And you're going to go back home.
Get a real job, right? Like stop fishing.
Yeah. But no, it's up pretty well for us. Like I said, we have there's so much, like Minnetonka alone. Like there's so many high dollar tournaments in that lake. Like I don't even know how many events every year like Denny Super 30, there's 5 of them for $5,000 each, and there's GH Fall Brawl, that's 5,000. Blackfish Classics 15,000. Minnetonka Classics 10,000. That's just a handful on one lake in the state, and then we have all these other ones too. So
Mhm.
a lot of money to be made in Minnesota just because we have so many fisheries.
Right. Well, dude, I mean, with that tournament scene, you've definitely found the what's the term I'm looking for? Not the secret, oh my gosh, I'm blanking here. I've been horrible with my words lately. What's the list of ingredients that you get for the recipe? That's what I'm looking. Good Lord, guys, I'm sorry. You found the recipe for
There we go.
Minnesota from a tournament standpoint.
Hey,
It's one of those days, guys. I'm sorry.
well,
But-
Can you
I'm looking
spell
up since like 3 in the morning.
what's that?
So I'm
Okay,
with you. I'm tired too. I'm up since like 3 in the morning.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
So
the fishing
dude,
life. I understand your pain.
Right. Well, and dude, so you love to be offshore. For folks that maybe have not listened to the first episodes we've done with you, or maybe this is their first time listening and learning about you, you're an offshore guy through and through. You're not afraid to go, up shallow, but you like to be
Yeah.
offshore with electronics, which is exactly why I love following along with you. I love learning from you because I'm the same way, or at least I aspire to be the same way, if you will. So with that, kind of, obviously not making you give up the juice, but like from your process standpoint, whether it's practice or breaking down a new body of water, being that Minnesota's got so many dang lakes, you go to a new body of water and utilizing those electronics. What's your process to break that body of water down?
so it depends because all our fisheries are so different. Like I'll take Lake Minnetonka for example, without getting too specific, obviously, because there's a lot of money on that lake. I don't want to give away too much.
We
But
want
I've had a lot of
waypoint.
success on. Yeah, well, that's fine because every year it changes. So I don't think I've ever won. I don't think I've ever won more than one tournament off a spot. Every year it changes every time. I don't know why. Because it's a grass fishery, so that kind of goes back to what I'm saying. Like Lake Minnetonka is a good example. Every time you go to that lake, you have to break it down every time because it's constantly evolving. It's constantly changing. Like when I first started fishing Minnetonka, I don't know, about 8 years ago maybe, the weed lines grew out to like maybe 16, 17 foot max. And now they're out to like 25, 26 in some places. So the lake is getting clearer, weeds are getting deeper, they're getting thicker, less milfoil, but more coontail. So the lake's kind of evolving, and you got to be able to change with that. So, like for me, going to a new body of water, like let's take, like I said, Minnetonka example, it's a clear water fishery with deep grass. So initially, my thought process goes to if it's summertime, let's say post spawn. I'm not much of a springtime spawn angler. I would prefer to be offshore, like you said. So we're post spawn. We're in the summer now. I'm immediately going to go for the edge of the grass, weed edge, and I'm going to figure out where that weed line is. Okay, it's in 25 foot of water consistently throughout the system. It's in 20 to 25 foot. I'm going to get on my hummingbirds, my lake master, and I'm going to highlight that 20 to 26, 27 foot contour. And that instantly eliminates 90% of the water for you. And it makes things pop out. And I can see just by looking at my map, high percentage areas, and
Right.
that right there is like huge right there. If people aren't doing that alone right there, you got to start. Like that cuts your time down so fast because you don't realize it by looking at just a regular map on your Lake Master. Everything's kind of blends together. But if you figure out what water column the fish are in, let's say it's even shallower, like a shallower, dirtier lake, majority of the fish are in 6 to 10 foot of water. You highlight 6 to 10 foot. You get bit. You get bit in that water column. You know there's some fish living there, some good quality fish living there. You highlight it, then you can start running it. And once you figure out a specific pattern, like they're on an inside turn or they're on the tip of a point or a hump or whatever it might be, those things really start to pop out to you, and you can really pick them apart, and you can just bypass a lot of the non-productive water just by simply looking at your graph, at your Lake Master map, and just stuff like that really really helps me break down lakes really fast. But the first thing, the first little bit on there, I'm just kind of just trying to feel it out, get a few bites, and
Right.
once I get a few big bites, key bites, then it's like, okay, because typically, like you guys know, we're anglers, big fish do what big fish do, if that makes sense. Like
100%.
if there's 4 pounders offshore on a weed line, the odds are he's not the only 4 pounder in that lake doing that same thing. Like you can almost always replicate it over and over and over again. So
No.
once you get a big bite or two, it's very easy to get on your graph, highlight, cut out 90% of the lake, get rid of all the fluff and all the nonsense, and just focus on that water column and go. That's like my
I have a
first thing I
question
do.
for you. So, say you roll up to a lake, right? And your Lake Master chip doesn't work on that lake because some lakes don't have it on it, especially here in New York for whatever reason. How do you break down a lake that way without your Lake Master chip working on your hummingbird unit? For those who don't have
To
Lake
me,
Master.
that would be heaven. That would
it'd
be
be
heaven
heaven?
for me.
I like it.
I
So
would
if you
love that because that means, okay, the only people that are going to know about the offshore structure are the guys that put in the work and get behind
Yeah.
their steering wheel, So that I would love that, but there's not many lakes in Minnesota that aren't birded anymore.
Yeah,
But that's what I would do. I would look at the water clarity. Water clarity dictates everything that I'm going to do, basically. If I go to a lake, I see crystal clear water, I'm going to look deeper. If I see, a foot of visibility, I'm probably not going to go too deep. Depending, well, in my region, anyways, that could vary depending on where you live. But in my region, if I've got 4 inches of visibility, I'm probably not going to look any deeper than 10 to 15 foot. And then I'll get behind the steering wheel and I'll graph and I'll graph and I'll graph and I'll graph. So I start to find points, rock piles, isolated milfoil patches, whatever it may be for that particular body of water, because every body of water is so different. And then I start to put the pieces of the puzzle together, get a few bites, and then you can just keep, like I said, big fish do what big fish do, and they always seem to do the same thing generally. Not always, but you can almost always count on it and pattern it for that specific lake on that specific, time period or day.
Yeah.
So when you're saying, so you find fish that are in 6 to 10, and with Humber, like especially Lake Master VX, and I know like just to keep this universal, obviously you and I are hummingbird guys. I mean, Andy is too, really. Andy's got all hummingbirds, but keeping this universal for folks, like I know you can do the same thing with avionics with hot maps and do your whatchamacallit, chart palettes, like have your different depth layers. Do you do anything like so I know with Hummingbird VX, Lake Master VX, it's got 4. I want to say it's 4. Is it 4? 4 different, if you do depth shading, like you could do the 4 different layers. I don't know if it's 4 or 5.
I thought it was
I
6.
think,
but
it might be 3, for sure 3, if not 4.
Right. So with that, say if you find the fish are in 6 to 10, how are you laying that out in regards to, like, are you putting one as like your shallow water is going to be like less than 5, or maybe you're not catching them, and then just doing a different color from 6 to 6 to 7, 7 to 8, 8 to 9? Like how are you setting that up?
So I like to simplify it. I want things to pop. So I always do a shallow water highlight, always, for number one, for navigation reasons, so I don't tear my lower unit off, And number 2, it gives you a real good idea of where the big flats are. It really sticks out. And typically I don't highlight anything else except for what I am trying to focus on, because then that really makes that one layer pop for you. You don't get lost in all the other. Everything else is kind of dull except for your shallow water, and then that water column you're actually looking for. That's how I run it. I mean, I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but it's just how I do it. I'm very, I don't know, particular. I like to get as dialed in as I possibly can, and I prefer, like, I don't know, I like to get dialed in on one thing, and when I do figure out that one thing, I like to get like super dialed into it and really hone in and pick it apart, and I'll ignore everything else and really hone in on that. That's that specific day maybe, and that might change the next day, but So that's why I kind of just do the shallow water highlight for navigation reasons. And number one, you can really see where your big massive flats are, because a lot of times some of the best offshore structure is going to be right off of your biggest flat in the lake. That's where some of your biggest populations of fish are going to live. Sometimes, not all the time, but because especially in grass fisheries, you have all that vegetation up on a huge massive flat, and you have that long point or whatever it may be that comes off that flat. It's just flats and fish kind of go hand in hand. So
Right. God, that's so interesting. It's crazy how something that simple from a feature standpoint can, like, from just like the human brain and how we look at things, make the process of breaking down water so much easier.
yeah,
That for whatever reason, that like psychology aspect of it, whatever, makes me just want to nerd out completely. I don't know. Maybe Andy, I sound like a
this
psycho
is
right
something
now.
so simple, but when you get on your
Yeah.
graph, like I said, it's like something so simple, but if you don't highlight anything at all, it all just kind of blends together, and everything just kind of blends, and nothing really sticks out. I mean, things stick out, but if you change that color, like, so me, I do red for shallow, my
Right.
shallow water highlight, and then I'll do yellow for the contour that I want to fish, and the rest of it's just blue, and it just makes it pop. You can see everything, and it's like, right where to go. Things really, really, really stick out, and to me, for me,
That makes sense.
and that's what I do, and I've been doing that for years and years and years, and it really helps me go to, especially these massive bodies of water I've never been to before in my life. And then you go there, you figure out, you get a few bites, and okay, get on your map, highlight everything, boom, away you go. And a lot of times it holds true over and over. Yeah, you're going to have dead water, but you might run 5 spots, or let's say 10 spots, and 3 of them will have fish, 7 won't. But you just found 3 spots in 2 hours, where it might have taken you 2 days to find those 3 spots, if you didn't highlight
Right.
and try to eliminate 90% of the lake.
Right. See, with my OCD, so like you mentioned how you take like yellow and that you make that the depth range that you want to focus on. My OCD makes me take like the rest. So like say you highlight yellow from 6 to 10, and that's where you're focusing on. My OCD will make me take the 4 different palettes and do like 6, 7, 7, 8, 8, 9, like just so they're all different. I don't know why. Just using all of them makes my satisfies my OCD.
See, I don't do that, because then to me it gets
It's too
like
convoluted.
it looks really good, like it looks pretty and all that, but
It's birdie.
the clutter, yeah, it gets cluttered in my mind. Like, I don't care about the rest of it. I just want to see 6 to 10. I don't care what the rest of the lake looks like.
Yeah.
But to each their own. That's just how I do things. Like, I try to simplify fishing, because fishing can be so overwhelming and overcomplicated a lot of times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes I feel like, especially like coming from a smallmouth standpoint, I know Andy, you can agree on this too. Like, I think there's a lot of situations for you that works really well, and now it'd be interesting though when it comes to like a Great Lake standpoint, where like you're catching them in 20, but you're also catching them in 40. It's like, where do you do that? Is that two like same process, but you use 2 different pallets type of deal to bring that out? That's like kind of an interesting deal. I mean, I'll toss it over to you, Andy, from
Yep.
like having to adjust as a guide all the
Yeah.
time on the Great Lakes every single day. How do you approach that?
So, like, let's throw like a standard guide trip out there, a normal day on the water with me. I will think of where I'm going to fish based on the seasonal pattern, because I know Lake Erie pretty much like the back of my hand at this point. And what I'll do is I'll run. I'm not going to graph that much during guide trips unless we're not catching them, but I'll start usually shallower and work my way deeper. And depending on what size fish I catch in what depth range, then I will adjust my graph and start running different shading on certain depths, so I know which waypoints to run to my next round. You know what I mean? So like
Mm-hmm.
if I start in 20 to 25 and I catch 2-pounders, and I go 30 to 35 and I catch 4s, and if I go out to 45 and I catch a 6, I'll ask clients, like, do you want to catch numbers, you want to try to get big ones, or you want to try to catch like in between? And then we'll target the fish based on that on the first couple spots I run during the day, because you never know. Like, some days you pull up in 20 foot of water and it's loaded with big ones. Usually not, but sometimes that happens. And luckily I have so many waypoints that I can duplicate it all over the lake just by changing the contour, so I know where to look throughout the day. So
Makes sense.
manipulating your graph to maximize your success is very important to understand how it works.
Yeah, for sure.
And kind of go back to touch on what Bailey said, like if you have two patterns kind of going, like Minnetonka, for example, coontails in 2025, but we also have milfoil in Minnetonka where that grows anywhere from 8 to 12. So a lot of times I'll highlight 8 to 12 and then I'll highlight 20 to 25 so I can, kind of bounce back and forth and keep checking both patterns,
Right. So with that though, one thing I was instructed really to bring up, and I think this is a great point, is you seem to with that, you seem to have a very free mind in regards to, there's some people that think because of what they found in practice, certain things, they're afraid to go try something completely different, especially when it's tournament time. But from talking with you and from what other folks have even told me as well, is that you could have nothing in the live wall at noon and completely to go do something you've never done ever before and just test the bite. You know what I'm saying? So like talk about your just like the mindset to being free to go, and while you might not even try it in practice, go try something completely different off the wall just because you thought of it. Got us?
Well, I guess it comes from experience, and the more you fish, the different bodies of water you see. Like, I guess the best way I can explain it is we've all experienced this. We've all gone through it, especially in practice for a lot of us. The best bite is the bite that's happening that day, right?
Mhm.
Like, how many days have we during practice corked 24 pounds, and then Derby day you get 2 pounders or whatever? The best bite is the
Right.
bite that's going on right now that day. And the only way to find that out is to test those different patterns, and I feel like that's that's why I'm not afraid to test, because I know that if I do find that pattern, that it could boom, it could happen like that. And perfect example is last weekend my son and I fished tournament back home. I haven't been on the lake in over a year. I know the lake, well, but I haven't been on the lake in over a year. And I intentionally did not go to practice on purpose for that reason, be able to fish free minded. Get there. And I did have preconceived notions in my mind, like I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna catch big ones, The goal there, we
Right.
start fishing around, nothing. We check some deep stuff, nothing. Start fishing, run some docks, nothing. Go start flipping milfoil, nothing. Go start fishing pads, nothing. And then the sun got up and we had fished deep already. Never had, well, we caught a couple of rats. I think we had like 3 pounds for 3 fish. It's like 10, 30, 11 o'clock in the morning, but the sun got high. It started getting hot. We have dirty water. So I'm like, something tells me we got to go back offshore. Like, even though we've already fished it, nobody else is fishing offshore because offshore bite has not been good for really anybody. Doc talk, everyone's saying the offshore bite's not really good. They're not going. I said, we got to go try it again. We got to go back out there. We got to fish some really deeper rock because it's really hot and the sun's really high. We got to fish some deeper rock. First deep rock spot we go out, we cork like 19 pounds off. We roll into the next one, we catch a 7-pounder. We got to get another big one. It's like, next thing you know, we go from 3 pounds at 11 o'clock in the morning, we go from 3 pounds to 24 pounds within a matter of an hour. And then we just rolled with that all day long. But once we figured that pattern out, it's like, okay, I know we got more deep rock here. We got some more deeper rock here. There's rock all over the lake, but we were specifically looking for that little bit deeper rock that was, 2 to 3 foot deeper than the majority of the rock in the lake. And being able to, fish with a free mind allowed me to do that. Where that same lake a year prior, we went into that tournament and we won at fishing docks. Like, you just being able to have a free mind, I guess, is kind of, I don't know, explain. It's like Serpent Lake, like like you're talking about before we went on the recording here, is that lake has smallmouth and largemouth. It's crystal clear. I went into it. I had a good practice with deep smallmouth out in like 30 foot of water. And tournament day comes. It's crystal clear water, high sun, 90 degrees, black calm. and I pulled my first smallmouth spot, and I could tell instantly they were not going to want to play ball. So like I just instantly, I'm like, okay, if I want to win, I got to figure out something to do that I can catch fish because it's a catch, weigh, release format, and that also gave me the advantage of kind of being able to see real time what the lake is doing with other anglers, So
Right.
I don't know. It's keeping an open mind. Like I wasn't scared. I knew like, yeah, I could bomb and come in dead last, but if I could figure something out, I could win. And I fortunately figured something out, and I ended up climbing the leaderboard and coming away with the win. But doing things I never even did in practice, but just fishing the day and fishing the conditions.
Yeah, I mean, I think that in itself is
An art.
an art, but I think that is one of the biggest advantages a tournament angler can have is that from a mindset. Like you
Yeah.
could,
It
we
comes
talk
with a
about this all
price
the
though,
time.
because
Right.
my tournament.
Go ahead.
It's like I said, it comes with a price because that style of fishing is hero or zero. Like, and that's why I think it's hard for people because there's two sides to it. Either you can capitalize and you have a great event, or you can come in down here because it did not pan out and you could not figure anything out. And I have those events. Like I'm either up here or I'm down here, and there's no in between because my style is I'll drop everything to try to win the tournament. I'm not fishing for points. I'm not fishing for fifth. AOI is nice. Angler of the Year is nice, but that's not my ultimate goal. My ultimate goal is to win events. Like I don't care about Angler of the Year. Like if I achieve it, great, awesome. But my goal is to win events, and I will sacrifice a win. I'm not scared to come in dead last if I think I can give myself a shot to win. And I guess that's just my style and my mindset.
Yeah. No, I feel like that's a deadly mindset, if anything.
Absolutely.
That's what that is. So going back on like when you've been catching fish from 6 to 10, does it ever like come across your mind where like, man, I wonder if maybe in this part of the lake they might be in 12 to 15? Like, do you ever try to like go outside the lines, if you will? What'll trigger you to do
Oh,
that?
like in practice,
Even in a tournament, like say you in practice you were catching them in 6
like
to
when I
10.
figure out a like
You got me?
just the feedback the fish are giving you. Like I'm always waiting for what the fish are telling me to do. Like so I just wrapped up Lahamadu event for the Champions Tour, and my entire practice basically was spent in that 15 to 23-foot range fishing offshore weed lines. And I started the morning off that way, and then a couple of the guys rocketed up the leaderboard, and I instantly thought like my practice tells me that I can't keep up with these guys, so I got to figure something out. So I bailed on all my practice, and I spent 5 days up there practicing. I bailed on everything, and the sun popped out. It was 100 and some degrees that day. It got really hot, and I'm like, this is a recipe for shallow water: docks, mats, pads, anything shallow. Like this is a recipe for fish to pull up and get under cover. So then I started running as
Shade
fast as I could and hitting all this. Exactly, running shade, running cover, because number one, the fish that are up there are going to be there to eat. They're going to be active. They're going to be easy to pick off. So I started running that. The day number one, it was two things. Number one, I knew I could not win. I couldn't keep up with those guys based on my practice, and the only way I thought I had a shot of even keeping pace with these guys was to go find new fish and fish that were going to come to me, which they were. And as the day progressed, that bite got better and better and better for me. And I climbed all the way up till I ended up in sixth place. When I was down midday, I was down in the 20s. So it's kind of as the day unfolds and the weather conditions change, and as the day unfolds in front of you, I guess I just kind of taking bits and pieces of what the fish are telling me to do, what the weather's doing, the body of water I'm on, and trying to put it all together and run with it. But even on the Champions Tour, I put up 5 days into practice offshore, and on an instant, right or wrong, maybe I could have done better offshore. I don't know, but in my mind, I thought my offshore fish aren't good enough to keep pace with what these guys are doing. I have to find something that's going now, that's happening today, and then look at just based on the weather and the conditions. That's what I thought was my best shot. So then that's what I did, and ended up panning out. So and I didn't win, but I saved face. I got 6th place and a good check, and moving on to the championship.
Right. God, just Andy, like that mindset, that freeness. Like,
it's a scary mindset, not just for you as an individual. Like, as for me listening to it, right? It's not so much scary for you because that's your process of doing things, but it's scary as an individual who knows that if I'm fishing against somebody that's free like that, and I try not to like think about what other people are doing and how they're fishing, but knowing that there might be somebody in the field that is able to drop everything they're doing on a moment's notice to chase a bite. They're the most dangerous people in the field, right? It's like there's the 2 most dangerous people in a tournament are the one guy who shows up to the ramp with 1 rod on his deck because he had practice dialed. And 2 is a person that has probably 70 rods on their deck and they're willing to try everything until that bite happens. So it's like when you start seeing guys with like 4 or 5 rods, like I don't know, but I got bit on this and this, doing this and that. They don't know, but they got bites. It's the 2 most dangerous people are the ones who are, one, they know what they're doing and they're going to do it all day for the 5 bites, or the guy that's willing to drop everything and run a completely different pattern. And it's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
I'm not scared to get on a flat and throw a hair jig for smallmouth on sand.
Yeah.
And then I'll go offshore and 20 foot of water and throw an A-rig, and I'll go right back to a weed line and drop shot largemouth and then pick up, and I'm going to go right to some mats in a 1.5 foot of water and punch mats with 1.5 ounce weight. I'll do it all in the same tournament. And I'll just keep testing everything until I start getting clues. Like, okay, I'm getting bit doing this. And then I'll stop and I'll go check some other things. And I'll come back. Okay, I'm getting bit again. You need to start to build on it, and
Here's my question: how long do you give a spot for no bites?
But it can burn you really bad.
Yeah. So, like, how long do you give each bite or area of the lake before you move
Depends.
on? I know this is the magic question, right? Because there's no rhyme or reason.
Oh, we still got him. We got you, Noah.
You broke up real bad there.
I said, is that the magic question?
Can you hear me now?
Because yep. Can you hear me?
Uh-oh.
What was the question?
Oh, I said there's like no rhyme or reason, right? Like that's the magic in it. There's no rhyme or reason or for when you're going to abandon something and try something else. So it's like there's no allotted time frame. You just go. Like you just feel it.
No.
You're like, yep, time to bail.
And I'm also not scared to sit on a spot for an entire tournament and make the same cast over and over and over again too. Like it all just my son and I, we fished a 90 boater on Minnetonka last year. We sat in one spot for 7.5 hours and made the same cast over and over and over again. It came down to conditions because it was just so tough. I felt like if we sat, we could milk it out, and ended up panning out. Like, I don't know. I just, in my mind, I'll do whatever I think it needs to be done to try to win. That's my ultimate goal. I try to win every tournament I can, and I'll do whatever it takes. If that's punching mats or flipping fishing docks or throwing a hair jug on flats for smallmouth or sitting on one spot in 25 foot of water and making the same cast for 7 hours. Like it, whatever I feel is right for that day. And I don't know how to answer that, but I guess experience comes down. And just experience, I would say. Wouldn't you guys say? Make those decisions.
Yeah. So I guess what Noah is saying here is he's either going to burn $1 in gas in the tournament or he's going to blow the entire take to the floor. Like,
right.
You never know. It's like, so if you don't see Noah during the day, you're like, dang it, he's catching him. And if you see Noah running around 1,000 times, you're like, dang it, he's catching him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just depends on the day, how the things are unfolding in front of me. Oh,
right.
It's incredible.
What does your mind do, or do you have a process of like, if you show up tournament day and nothing is working, you're trying new things, you're making those same fluid decisions as usual, but nothing of your confidence really is working, and you have the oh crap button, like what is your usual move to try to just even get a bite?
My oh crap button would be dock fishing.
Uh-oh. We've told you really good at
That
that.
is my last resort. But if I have to dock fish, I will dock fish. I mean, I don't like doing it, but if I have, there's always fish on docks all year long. I don't care when it is or the conditions. If you burn enough docks, you will catch fish. So that's
Mhm.
my break glass in case of emergency. It's docks.
Break glass.
Break glass. He's breaking the fire extinguisher out. He's putting out the flames.
Mhm. Yeah. We're gonna torch this derb. Is what we're doing.
But I mean,
Oh,
docks
man.
have their time and place and can be really special. I've seen it where guys roll up on docks. Like I remember one tournament we fished together, Bailey. We were offshore. At the end of the day, like the last hour and a half, I was like, dude, we got to get a big one. And we went up shallow and just burned the bank, and we ended up getting 2 big ones. If we didn't win, but we came very close, and we should
That's
have
how we
won.
won. That's how my partner and I, we won blackfish. That's what we did.
Yeah.
We started burning docks. We knew we needed a big one.
Yeah,
that was a fun
crazy.
day.
Yes. I have many memories of that day. That big old thing was that day.
It went from Andy's motor.
Oh yeah, we're running down the lake and my oil pump stopped working on my motor, so we're on trolling motor all day.
Oh,
That's good.
man.
Yeah,
that's good.
I still have the footage from that day where it was pouring rain. It was October. It was like 45 degrees.
It blowing 45.
Blowing like a mother, which is it made for like that perfect fall day though. Like the nastier, the better you're going to smoke them. And we sat on one spot and probably caught maybe 20, 25 different smallmouth, all of them over 4 pounds. But we couldn't get like one over 5.
Yeah, I think
So
that was our biggest one, and it was 5 even.
yeah. So we had like 22 pounds or so of smallies, and then at the end of the day, Andy's like, well, 1, we need a big one, and 2, we got to get back in time. So we might as well just start going fishing docks on the way back, and pulls up to the first dock, and it's a freaking 5-pounder when he throws at it. And I'm like, of course. And then we go back, and we're about to go in. It's like the last dock we're about to fish. And Andy doesn't even throw at the dock. He throws in between the docks, like leading up to the next dock. Catches like a 6.5. And we're like, well, that'll work. We're like, there's no way anybody beat us. And somebody comes in with a bigger bag.
Yeah, like by a pound. It was like 1.5 pounds or something we got beat by. We had, 25.5, Bailey?
The 25.5, they had 26.5.
Yeah.
It was one of those days.
Oh, man.
You just laugh about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's a question for you, Noah. So you're offshore.
If you need to get bit, go to the dock.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's a question for you. So you're offshore. You see a school on live. You see them on 360. And they're going to chew just about anything you're going to put in their face. I'm curious, first 3 things you're going to throw at them. But also, if you had a preference, are you throwing spinning or casting gear?
Jig. Day in, day out.
one answer only. Jig.
Jig, and
Jig.
jig.
Jig, and jig.
Are you like a tungsten, like compact jig guy, or are you like that 1 ounce big chunky jig with like 7.6 heavy and big fluoro?
It depends on what format I'm fishing. If I'm fishing a 5-fish format, I'm going with the big jig. If it's a Champions Tour format where it's every fish counts, then I'm going with the compact tungsten jig. So, but it's always jig. You guys, I just feel like you're more efficient, and like me, I want to boat flip my fish. I don't want to fight them with a spinner rod and whatever. I want to set the hook, drag them in, boat flip them, make another cast. Back out there as fast as I can. But so yeah, jig, drop shot, Nico. Well, no, jig. Kind of got away from drop shot over the years. Jig, Nico, Ned. So Ned's kind of taken the place of a drop shot in the last few years for me. Those are kind of my three go-to. Two of them are spinning rods, sadly, but
he's got like 20.
They don't bite a jig; they'll bite something else.
12-pound fluoro, so they can still boat flip them. More
Man, that Nico.
I mean, day in and day out. Yeah.
Go ahead.
That, no, there's a little bit of a lag here, so it's kind of hard to talk.
Yeah.
But
you're good. We'll wait 5
Nico,
seconds.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
That Nico's kind of become a staple. A Ned rig and a Nico kind of been. They're always on my deck, just along with my jig, because if I pull up an offshore spot and I see fish, they won't eat a jig, which is most of the time, especially the bigger ones, will eat the jig no matter what. It almost seems like they almost always eat the jig, and then I'll clean up with a Nico or a Ned after that.
I like it. So with the Nico, kind of walk us through your setup, but then because I'm curious, and then two, like your favorite bait you'll throw with a Nico.
You're gonna make me answer that?
You mean you don't have to if you don't. I'm curious about the setup at least.
He's like,
I'll give you that. I'm gonna leave the bait out of it though.
Okay, fair enough.
I've made too much money on that bait. I don't want to give it up. But Nico, so I prefer medium light. I know a lot of guys like mediums. I really like a light rod. I want my rod to load up for me. I don't want to set the hook. I don't want a big stiff rod. Nico 7-foot medium light, 10-pound braid to 10-pound Seaguar and Viz like fluorocarbon, because you're almost always fishing around some sort of cover, so there's no need to go to 6-pound or 8. I'm always fishing around grass. I'm fishing around rock or zebra mussel, so I'm always running 10-pound. Same with a Ned rig too. Ned rig, 7-foot medium light. I rarely use mediums for anything except for maybe like tube fishing. So medium light. And then for my Nico, I don't ever, rarely go over a 16th ounce weight. Rarely, unless it's really windy, I'll go to a 3/32, and I'll fish that out to 25, 30 foot of water, the 16th ounce weight. I see guys. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but for me, what I've done over the years and my confidence is I see guys who like with real heavy weights and those like a rock to the bottom. For me, I think like Nico. I'm thinking finesse. I'm thinking a lot of times you're fishing clear water, and a lot of those bites come on that initial fall where it's kind of just slowly spiraling down and falling nice and slow and gliding. Mm-hmm. So I want a slow fall. That's why I fish a 16th ounce. It takes a little longer to get to the bottom, but right or wrong, I don't know, but that's what I do. 16th ounce weight. Number 2, VMC Nico hook, 10-pound line, 7-foot medium light.
Love that. That's one thing I've been learning, especially like Nico or some other rigs that I've been diving into lately, that it seems like you have to find the happy medium where it can't be too light, but also it can't be too heavy. You got to find that happy medium where it's just light enough where it gets it to the bottom decent, but also doesn't send it flying like a rock.
Yeah. I'm the same way with my Ned rigs too. I'm the same way. I try to get away
with the lightest weight.
It's the delay. There's a delay there. With Ned rigs, with the Ned rigs, I'll use typically run an 1/8 ounce on the Ned rigs, and then I use like your Z-Man Elastex because those float, so that slows your sink a little bit just having the floating plastic, but 1/8 ounce, I'll fish that all the way out to 25, even 30 foot of water on the 1/8 ounce. Unless it gets windy, then I'll kick it up a little bit, a little heavier head. But I don't ever go over an 1/8, rarely ever.
Makes sense. Now I know you won't talk about the bait, but will you at least tell us like what hook you're using?
VMC Nico hook.
VMC number 2. Size 2. Yeah.
Oh, did I completely go over my head? I'm still sitting here trying to brainstorm what bait he could possibly be throwing. trying to
If
figure
you know,
out the
you
juice.
know. There's only a few.
Yeah.
There's only a few
If
of us
you
that
know,
know.
I love it.
Touche. Oh man. Well, I'm kind of I'm curious about this too, in regards to when it comes to tournament time for you. The fact that you're so able to ditch something and be able to trial run it if something else isn't working probably means you got a lot of stuff in your boat, which means I mean, is that true that you make sure tournament day you got anything possibly you can need? I imagine especially well with the Champions Tour events, but
Yeah. Yeah. I
you're just locked and loaded.
like the last event. I think I had like 20 rods rigged up, ready to go for 12 inches of water out to 27 foot of water. Like I was ready for any situation, and so that way you're not wasting time in the event thinking, "Oh, I should do this. I got to rig this up quick." I need an ounce and a half weight, and I'm not ready for that. Like I have everything ready to go for every possible scenario I think I might encounter for that day, just to make one cast or two casts. Like I want to make sure I'm ready to make those two casts, and I might not touch that rod again for the rest of the day. But when I do make those two casts, I'm not wasting 3 minutes digging around, tying up, looking for bobbers, whatever the situation may be. Pick it up, flip, 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 put it down. I won't touch it again the rest of the day, or I might use the rest of the day. I don't know. I just want to make sure that I'm ready, because tournament fishing is all about efficiency, right? It's how many casts can you make, how many fish not to lose, how many targets can you hit. You're not wasting casts. You're not wasting time tying lines, digging around. It's all about efficiencies. The more casts you make, the more targets you hit, the more opportunities you have to catch fish. That's
Right.
that's what my mindset is going into an event like that.
That makes sense. Now, you've been wreaking havoc for a while on Minnesota, and several people have come to me and we've had conversations that they think that you're the best that is coming out of Minnesota. So, with that being said, I mean, looking ahead, is your plan to stay in the region, or do you have any aspirations to go to like MLF or Bass or anything like that? Are you chasing the opens or invitationals, things of that nature?
It's it's hard. It's a hard decision to make. Like I've been dreaming of it since I was a kid. I used to watch Bassmasters on TNN outdoors with my dad. Bob Cobb was the MC. That's what I grew up watching. So it's always been my lifelong dream and my goal of mine. But the reality is, it's like with a new format that the Bassmaster Opens came out with the EQ, it's like to fish all 9 events when you have a family and kids and a job. It's like it's hard for me to sacrifice. You're basically going to bet the house that you're going to have success, and if you don't, which odds are you're not going to, odds are against you. If you don't, what's the consequences of failing? It's not for me. I own my own business, so it's not just the cost of it is I'm taking off time, and when I'm not working, I'm not making money. So it's a double-edged sword for me. So it's a really hard decision for me to make. There's enough money in Minnesota right now in tournament fishing to keep me going with this. And the ultimate goal is to fish it, yes, at some point. I don't know if that's going to be next year or the year after, but as of right now, with the new format and having to fork over, on the cheap side, I'm guessing 35 grand, maybe even knocking on the door of 40 if you try to get by cheaply. A lot of money to fork over. So I don't see it happening unless something changes. I'm probably just going to stick to Minnesota for at least the next year or two and see how things go. Take it year by year, really. And if an opportunity comes up and an opportunity arises, I'll probably take it. But as of right now, with the new format, I can't. I got a bunch of kids and a wife and a mortgage to pay for and a business to run. And if I'm not home, the business isn't running, and the kids aren't with me, and it's a lot. So I don't know.
Makes sense.
Take it year by year.
Makes sense. Family man. I like that. Well, Andy, you got anything else left for Noah here?
No, I was going to say, in order to jump to those EQs, I think you just got to win a few more tournaments.
Well, I'm fishing for
Not enough.
a
No.
boat next week that's worth about $60,000. So
Yeah. So then you can
maybe I'll
sell
just
your
win
old
the
one
boat.
and
We can
keep that
sell
one,
it, and then we
right?
can
There you go. And now you're
I
what?
might
You
sell
bought.
both this time if I win it again.
Mm. And how many of you won of these champion tours now? Just to remind the folks here, because haven't you won 2 of them already? Am I wrong?
I've
Or
won
3?
I've won six champion tour events, and 3 of them were boats. So I've won 3 boats and 6 events total in the last 4 years. This is my 5th year on tour.
Well, go get a 4th boat.
So
They might stop inviting you here
hopefully we
soon,
can.
Noah, if you keep taking them.
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
Oh,
I will
man.
trade you a Hobie for one of the boats.
Oh man! You know the cool thing is too is when I win these boats and I sell my old one, my friends will buy them, so I still get to see all the boats. We all kind of, I still have visitation rights to them, so it's pretty cool.
You're sitting there. It's tournament day, and you're looking at who you're competing against. You're like, yeah, I own all of you. Those are my boats.
Oh, man.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Well, okay, so we're gonna let you go here, Noah. But I have one last question for you. That for whatever reason, I've been in a habit of asking folks that we've had on the show this question, but I've been genuinely been curious about this as of late for whatever reason. But if you couldn't fish again for the rest of your life, say you couldn't have fishing as a career path, something completely different, what would you choose? Like if you couldn't do fishing, what would you do?
I couldn't do fishing. What would I do? Mechanic, probably.
Out of all things, you would choose a mechanic?
I like
You
to
just enjoy it?
fix things. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Just
well, I know who to
the
call.
satisfaction of the problem solving. Like I don't know why. Like I fix all my
I
own
can
stuff.
see-
I'll do all my own and so
I can see how that correlates though with fishing though, solving the problem. Like you probably get a lot of satisfaction out of the process of graphing and everything, and then actually finding the fish and that first tick to make it that those are bass. That's probably you probably get more satisfaction out of
Yep.
that than catching a bass. Am I correct?
yeah, it's defining them for me. That's what I like.
Yeah.
Huh?
So there's a few people that I know that are exactly like that, and they operate the exact same as you do. And like Andy, this rings, and don't know if he listens to it, but I know our buddy Liam listens, and that is exactly Casey Smith, how he works here in New York. Because I've talked to him about this exact same conversation. The satisfaction of finding those fish, understanding where they are, graphing, putting in the time. That screams exactly what you're talking about, Noah, though, like the mechanic, the problem solving, like solving an issue, that satisfaction behind it. That's kind of like a lot of what an offshore guy feels like, to be honest.
Yep.
I like it. That's cool. Well, man,
Yeah,
appreciate
it
you
is.
always taking the
100%.
time out to be on this show. I know everyone loves to hear from you. I personally love always learning from you, and hope to get some more time in the boat with you, man.
Absolutely. We gotta go glide bait fishing. That's what we gotta do.
I say no, for real though. He's going to be looking for that Neko rig rod, and see what that bait is. So beware.
Yeah, I'll be ransacking that boat. Is what I'll be doing.
Say, I will find the juice.
Oh man.
Now, man, you say when, and we got some good glide bait lakes here, but it sounds like a plan to me, dude.
Yeah, man, that'd be fun.
All right, buddy. Well, it's a pleasure as always, and dude, we'll be talking to you real soon.
All right, thanks for having me, guys.
All right, man. Good
I
luck.
know.
Go
Take care.
catch him up.
Well, Andy, that was fun. I know we had a little bit of a lag there, but I think nonetheless we pulled it off in regards to getting some good information from Noah. Obviously, always learn a lot from him, and I mean, if you want to learn from a guy that is so in tune with his electronics, but also able to use them from a functionality standpoint to be like the epitome of efficient. Like there's guys I see even at the pro level that are not efficient whatsoever with their electronics. And this dude's on another level. So, and you can hear that a little bit with talking to him. Definitely when he was in his boat while we're staging up for the media trip that we had him on, that was definitely doing a little snooping, watching from the background, watching how he operates certain things. Because there's just so much to learn. And I feel like, I don't know why, but I nerd out on stuff like that. That's something I just love. I would love to be a fly on the wall during one of his practice days. Because that just to soak that in, that'd be super cool.
Agreed.
Yeah. Well, dude, great show with Noah, as always. Appreciate that guy. Freaking hammer. Many people I've talked to have said he's the best to come out of Minnesota. And from what
has he come out of Minnesota yet? He's the best right now in Minnesota, right? Because he hasn't
best in Minnesota that has yet to come out of Minnesota. People, they understand what we're saying. They get it. They understand what we're saying. But regardless, always a good time, and I know he'll be back on the show here soon. But what's up with you this weekend, man? What are the plans? Are you guiding?
We are guiding. So what do I have? I have a trip Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, and I'm actually waiting on the pre-authorization for Mercury to come back so I can go get my motor fixed.
You have to wait for authorization to get your Merc fixed?
Because it's not broken. It's on the verge of being broken. Yeah. So,
it's about to break. Can I get it fixed now, or do I have to wait for it to break?
and I'm hoping that they say I can get it fixed now. So next Friday or Thursday after my guide trip, me and the family might be heading to Connecticut for a few days. Fingers crossed. So we'll see. But yeah.
Is that because you have to go to Thayer's?
I have to take it to Thayer's to get the tilt trim assembly completely replaced. So, Mercury's.
Maybe you'll take it fishing along the way.
Maybe on the way back. We'll see. It depends on how long we'll have to be there for, too. So,
true. Very true.
Because I have to get back for the following Tuesday because I have a guide trip the following Tuesday, Wednesday. So, it's going to be interesting.
Heck yeah. Yeah. Well, this weekend's going to be fun. Going on a river float trip with our buddy Forrest.
You going Saturday. Down the Oak Orchard?
No, I'm not allowed to tell you where we're going.
Oh, I know where you're going.
You probably know, but I'm not allowed to tell anybody.
I know where you're going.
It's his spot. Him and I. If you guys,
you're going meat hunting.
Yes, we will be filling the freezer, and we will also be emptying the freezer of beers.
Love it. Enjoy.
Filling with fish, emptying of beer. So it'll be a fun day. If you guys have not seen, Forrest and I put up pretty cool walleye fishing video in the winter. So we're gonna go, not there, but a similar area, and go try and experiment a new place and go do a river float or take my truck, drop it down at a spot, and go float down the river section. So that'll be fun. And then Sunday I'm gonna go pre-practice for states. Put in a little time. Because I was supposed to have days off going into state championships, but my work scheduled a trip over top of them. So unfortunately, I can't do that because work comes first. And so trying to use half a day Sunday because I'm actually going to go up to St. Lawrence River Sunday night. Got the an X2 trip with the X2 crew, which will have in-person podcasts and such coming for you guys next week, like we mentioned. Therefore, there's going to be no live next Tuesday night. It's just going to be we're going to try to film them Monday night, and I'll try to get one out for you guys Tuesday. But either way, that's going to be a lot of fun next week. Do some fishing on Wednesday. Do some fishing Monday, Tuesday. But that'll be either St. Lawrence River. But the interesting part is we might not be able to fish the St. Lawrence River. We might have to fish lakes nearby because we already have to do that with Brent Ayler and Fletcher Shryack coming up because Major League Fishing announced their schedule today, which means they can't fish with anybody in a boat per their rules. So they can't fish St. Lawrence. But if Bass doesn't announce their schedule, the Bass guys at least can go back out, fish the river and such. But
just go to Black. There's actually a little lake up there. I'll text.
Oh, I got some lakes. Don't you worry.
Because we were gonna stay on one, and there's from what I was reading, there's big ones in there, and I was like,
Yeah.
dang it, that cabin booked before we could get it.
Yeah,
So.
don't you worry. We got it all figured out. But either way, it's gonna be a fun deal. Hopefully, a lot of content coming from that on the Serious Anglers social channels. But Andy, this was fun as always. We have obviously the X2 shows coming next week. We'll try to even do multiple shows potentially that'll spread out over the weeks to come. Maybe you guys get some bonus episodes. But for next Friday's episode, we'll have Mr. Trevor Lowe from Omnia Fishing joining us.
Oh, nice.
That'll be some cool stuff coming from Omnia. But without further ado, I think that's going to wrap it up, and we'll see you guys next week. Peace.